Hey, good afternoon, everybody, commissioners. My name is Katie Martin. I'm the chair of the LAFCo for San Mateo currently, and I'm calling this meeting of the May 15th regular meeting of the LAFCo Formation Commission at 2:31, I think. We are meeting in the San Mateo Board of Supervisors chambers and on Zoom for public attendance. The clerk will now tell us how the public may contribute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For Sorry, give me one moment. For instructions on how to participate on Zoom, speakers may use the *9 feature and
Do the roll call for.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you ask me for the roll call.
I'm sorry, roll call.
Okay, yes, would you call the roll, please?
Sure. Sorry about that. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. For members of the public, the instructions on how to participate in today's meeting may be found on the published agenda. These instructions provide information on how to submit written comments and how to participate on Zoom. Now I will call roll. Commissioner Bigstick,
Present.
Commissioner Chang Karali,
Present.
Commissioner Mueller,
Here.
Commissioner Slocum,
Here.
Commissioner Draper,
Here.
and Chair Martin.
Here.
We have staff present, I'm sorry, Commissioner Ryback. I'm so sorry. And staff present is Executive Officer Rob Bartoli and Legal Counsel Timothy Fox. And in the audience, we have Jim O'Neill alternate. Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to item number 2, which is public comment for items not on the agenda.
We did not receive any comments on the agenda, but we do have 2 speakers in chambers that would like to. I will first call on Sergio Ramirez. from
These
the
are
West-
for items not on the agenda, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Sergio Ramirez. I am the general manager at West Bay Sanitary District. We service the area of Menlo Park, all of Menlo Park, Portola Valley, portions of Atherton, small portions of East Palo Alto, and unincorporated San Mateo County, as well as Redwood City. The reason that I'm here today during public comment is just to talk to you briefly about a matter that our board of directors has directed me to work on. And that is to ask for your help in having the county or have our solid waste franchise reassigned to the county. And I'll just hit a few points here. The County of San Mateo and West Bay Sanitary District are member agencies of the South Bay Side Waste Management Authority. It's a JPA that includes several cities in the peninsula, including Belmont, Burlingame, Menlo Park, Redwood City, and the like. The JPA members franchise with Recology of San Mateo County to collect all of the solid waste, organics, and recyclables in the peninsula. And the district's franchise with Recology covers a few non-contiguous areas of unincorporated Menlo Park. So this would be San Mateo County. And so these are the four small areas that we're talking about. They include West Menlo Park, the Ladera area, Weekend Acres, and Menlo Oaks near Ringwood Ave and Bay Road. Back in February of 2009, LAFCo conducted a municipal services review of the district, and it mentioned that the franchise holder, which was the district, should look at, and the county should look at examining whether efficiencies and inclusion of the district customers in the county would benefit the community as a whole.
Can you wrap up in about a minute?
Yes.
Okay.
And since then, since 2009, both staffs, the county and the district, have been working on this process. In 2009, district council, the county's council, and SBWMA's council all worked on documents so we can see this process through of the reassignment. And right after 2019, unfortunately, the pandemic hit. There was some staff changes, and everything came to a halt. We are here, and I'm here on the district's behalf to ask the commission for its help in seeing this process through by speaking with the Board of Supervisors, county staff, and just basically get some momentum behind this so we can finally see it through. We're planning on submitting an application, a formal application to LAFCo to start this process. We'd rather do the application since the MSR was already conducted. We'd hate to engage in another MSR. But so anyway, so we're here in that capacity to ask for your help and Rob's guidance, and he's been great about all this. So thank you very much. That was what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one more speaker on Zoom. Mr. Gregory Ferris, you have 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Greg Ferris. I'm following up on the triangle annexation in West Menlo Park. To review, we submitted paperwork and $7,000 in fees 9 years ago to annex the triangular region in West Menlo Park bounded by Alameda de las Pulgas, Santa Cruz Avenue, and Sharon Road. When we began this process, there were 61 homes. There have been 3 subdivisions since, adding 4 additional homes. We have 80% support from the neighbors. LAFCo has completed all their work and is waiting on the city to act. Initial concerns of the city were primarily the financial aspect of road improvements on the Alameda side. This concern has now been alleviated because of the recent approval of the Santa Cruz Alameda road improvement. Rob Bartoli and I met with Menlo Park City Manager Justin Murphy on April 23rd. This is after I had mentioned it at the last meeting. He said that the city did not view this annexation as a priority. He also said that to make progress, the city would like us to pay additional fees and do another check on the level of interest of the neighbors in annexation. I also individually discussed this with Menlo Park Mayor Cecilia Taylor yesterday. She heard my comments and said that annexation is not dead, so that's good. I'm frankly discouraged by the city expecting us to pay more money and do a new check on enthusiasm, because that's what we did in the beginning 9 years ago. And it's going to be hard to get additional funds from the neighbors because 9 years have passed since we did that the last time, and it's not clear that anything's going to be different if we essentially do it all over again and new fees and new, petition or something similar. So anyway, that's an update on this. I've been in communication with Rob Bartoli regularly, and I just wanted to give an update to the committee. Thank you.
Commissioner Muller has a comment.
Mr. Ferris, if you're still there, as you know, when I was a city council member in Menlo Park, I supported that annexation. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to be able to talk to you about it more.
Thank you. Thank you.
There are no more participants wishing to speak. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to comment or to item number 3, the consent calendar. Do any of the commissioners wish to pull either of the consent calendar items for discussion? Okay, may I have a motion and a second to approve agenda item 3?
I'll move. Second. Second.
Should take a roll call, please.
Thank you. That was motion by Commissioner Chincarelli and seconded by Commissioner Draper. Commissioner Slocum. Commissioner Bixby,
Yes.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Mueller,
Yes.
Commissioner Rarbach,
Yes.
Commissioner Chincarelli,
Aye.
Chair Martin. Thank you, Chair. Motion carries.
Okay, on to item 4, excuse me. Yes, item 4, consideration of final MSR for Broadmoor Police Protection District.
Thank you,
Yes,
Chair
our
Martin.
report.
If we could pull the PowerPoint slide back up. I'll start the presentation for that item. So item number 4 is the consideration of final municipal service review for the Bravo Police Protection District. As an overview for what a municipal service review is, or an MSR, it's intended to serve as a tool to help LAFCo, the public, and other agencies better understand public services and governance deliveries, and also supports spheres of influence. I won't go into too detailed the background and presentation, as this is the second time around seeing this, and the commission reviewed the draft MSR for Broadmoor at the March meeting. But again, a little bit of background into that. The Broadmoor Police Protection District had an MSR in 2015, and then there was a special study that was conducted by LAFCo in 2023. We also conducted monthly updates to the LAFCo Commission during 2023, and that those requested updates, along with any new information, were then incorporated in this latest MSR that's before the Commission today. Including reviewing the status of implementations of the LAFCo recommendations from that special study. As noted at the March meeting and in the report, key issues for Broadmoor continue to be that the district has had significant budget deficits, that the district also made dramatic cuts to spending since the start of this fiscal year. That cuts included the reduction of 2 sworn officers, having 7 sworn officers now on staff. Those budget cuts came shortly after the district adopted its 23-24 fiscal year budget. And the need for these unplanned cuts concerned LAFCo about the district having a full understanding and understanding fiscal health and fiscal status. Also, that the district had adopted after the budget adopted and rescinded a resolution stating the district was insolvent and then facing a fiscal emergency. And as I had mentioned, that the district did rescind that resolution later in January. This is just an overview again of the Broward Police Protection District, originally formed in 1948 and serves about a half a square mile with about 7,000 residents within the district boundaries. This is a map showing the overview of those areas, and again showing both the Broadmoor area and then what is called unincorporated Colma area around Colma Park Station. Updates from the draft circulation MSR to the final version. So on April 18th, 2024, the Broadmoor Police Protection District selected a consulting firm, NBS, to assist the district with developing a budget for this fiscal year, along with the creation of a long-term fiscal plan and research and analysis for a potential property tax measure for the upcoming November 2024 election. LAFCo staff will be continuing to monitor these efforts and provide updates to the LAFCo Commission as needed. So that information was then included within the report in the financial section. There is some clarification that the cost per officer actually is now similar to surrounding agencies, and those changes have been redlined within the draft in the final version of the circulation report. There was a revised recommendation regarding the exploring of hiring or gaining additional staff, consultants, or volunteers to assist in performing either human resource functions or administrative tasks, including budget support. Again, that is shown in track changes within the MSR. And then there are minor typographical corrections throughout the report. I'll go briefly touching on some of the growth, some of the MSR determinations and recommendations. They're similar in nature to the March meeting, so I won't go too in depth on them. I do want to touch on number one, and that's growth in population. And the staff report and the MSR state that the territory served within Broadmoor Police Protection District is not expected to experience significant population growth, and therefore there's no required change in services or needs at this time. Since the completion of this report, the County of San Mateo has adopted their final housing element. This plan includes rezoning several parcels within the unincorporated area of what is the unincorporated area, Colma. And so while there might be additional development within the area, the projected development is not anticipated at this time to impact the demands or service boundaries of the Broadmoor Police Protection District, but there might be future development in a certain segment of the Broadmoor Police Protection District's service area. As mentioned before in the March meeting, the Broadmoor Police Protection District does not have any area that contain disadvantaged unincorporated communities. Briefly touching on the adequacy and capacity of the district. Broadmoor Police Protection provides police protection to the unincorporated area of Broadmoor Village. It operates currently with 7 sworn officers, 1 full-time administrative secretary, 1 part-time secretary, and 1 part-time paid officer, along with 14 unpaid reserve and volunteers. And this has a lower ratio than some of the other agencies, and we do have some recommendations that the district look at regarding those. For financial ability and recommendations, the report has several of them regarding the determinations or recommendations. And again, restating what I may have mentioned earlier, the district has had significant budget deficits in 5 of the last fiscal years. It has significant pension liabilities that could pose a threat to long-term fiscal health. And right now, the lack of reserve fund and the continuation use of fund balance put the district in a vulnerable position in case there is a crisis. This is an overview of the district's budget for year end, either the adopted budget or actual revenues. And again, we see that for the actual revenues and expenditures, there's budget losses, and there's projected budget losses in fiscal years 23 and 24. But I will discuss fiscal year 23-24 here in a moment, based on some additional documents that the district has provided at their latest public meeting just this week. As I had mentioned, the district took several actions after the adoption of the 23-24 budget that greatly reduced spending at the district, including elimination of 2 full-time officers, the suspension of operations and non-critical staff, the reduction of some staff members' positions from full-time hours to part-time hours, implemented efforts to reduce overtime expenditures, reinstituted the reserve officer program, which is unpaid positions, and developing a plan to reduce the district's vehicle fleet. And while the district took those actions, it didn't appear that those actions were discussed at either public meetings through the board commission or direction that was given by the board to take those actions. There's no staff report outlining those, but there were drastic cuts that were made that did assist the district's budget this year. And that's what made it challenging for LAFCo to project what a budget would look like because the cuts were so deep and so different from previous fiscal years regarding expenditures. But it does appear based on documents from the district that they will have sufficient fund balance through this year to continue operations, largely due to those reduced expenditures. This is an overview again of the district's action regarding bankruptcy and then the rescinding of that resolution. So there was a resolution that was adopted in September 2023 to file Chapter 9 bankruptcy, stating the agency was facing a fiscal emergency and was insolvent. And that resolution then was rescinded in January 2024. And again, the cost reduction measures put into place does seem to have impacted the budget in a way that there will be sufficient funds to fund operations throughout the rest of the fiscal year. The district is currently looking at implementing a property tax. Potentially that would be part of the next election. Right now, they're looking at that contract, as I had mentioned, to produce an analysis on what that tech measure would look like. And the budget process has started with the draft budget then being produced and discussed earlier this week at the Broadmoor Police Protection District, and I'll talk about that here in a couple slides. And then again, we have several recommendations regarding budget process and documentation, ways to explore reduce reliance on excess ERAF, long-term fiscal planning, and exploring ways to address budget shortfalls and unbalanced budgets for the district, along with the review of audit documents and overall transparency related to budget items. As mentioned also in the report, the district's agendas are posted to the website, but staff reports are typically not available. So we have some recommendations regarding that and other transparency regarding availability of documents and viewing of those documents. And then the report looks at then governance options, as we discussed last time, including status quo, merger and annexation with the city of Daly City, formation of county service area or community services district, contracting with another agency without reorganization, the dissolution of the district, and bankruptcy, which, while not a governance option, certainly could influence what options the district may pursue from a governance standpoint. Regarding public comments and outreach, so on April 9th, LAFCo staff presented the draft MSR to the Broadmoor Police Protection Commission. And there was a discussion between LAFCo staff and the commissioners at Broadmoor Police Protection District about the report. And they had some questions and some follow-up and clarification. And then LAFCo staff also presented on April 18th to the Broadmoor Property Owners Association as well. And then since the publication of the draft report, LAFCO has received 4 comment letters. 2 of them are in your packet, and then 2 were emailed to the commission yesterday. 2 letters from Paul Davis, the Broadmoor Police Protection District's legal counsel. One received on April 24th. That's the one that's in your packet now. And then one received on May 14th. That was emailed yesterday. And Andrea Hall, a resident of the Broadmoor Police Protection District area, submitted a letter on May 1st. That one is in your packet. And then also submitted a letter on May 14th, which was emailed yesterday. So these, as I had mentioned, those 2 letters that were received on the 24th and the 1st that are in the packet largely touch on litigation and the status of that litigation related to the Broadmoor Police Protection District or former or current Broadmoor Police Protection employees. In her letter, Ms. Hall also expresses her concerns about the potential financial impact regarding ongoing litigation and insurance costs. And then on the letters that were submitted on May 14th, both Paul Davis and Andrea Hall discussed again the status of previous or ongoing litigation related to Broadmoor Police Protection District. And then Ms. Hall expresses her concerns about the draft fiscal 24-25 budget for the Broadmoor Police Protection District and some of the changes to the budget amounts compared to last year and regarding whether those figures are accurate or not. So additional items is that since again, the publication of the LAFCo report and MSR is that on May 10th, the Broadmoor Police Protection District published a draft of their fiscal 24-25 budget. In that document, there's a proposed surplus of about $480,000 for the upcoming fiscal year. So in 24-25, they're showing a sufficient revenue and to also include a surplus to cover expenditures. The budget document shows actuals through March 31st, which is helpful, and that hasn't been shown before. It does not, though, show estimated actuals for the end of the fiscal year. So there is that document, I believe, was included in Andrea Hall's May 14th letter. So if you're looking at that document, the actuals that are shown are through the end of the month of March. So there is an estimated actuals for what the rest of the year would be. So we don't know what the fund balance would be for the rest of the fiscal year. There are salary and wages proposed to decrease by almost $400,000. The total expenditures are proposed to be reduced by 19%, and then projected revenue is to be increased by 7%. So the expenditures for this fiscal year in 23-24 was $3.3 million, and the district is proposing a budget of $2.7 million in the fiscal year of 24 and 25. And again, that includes in LAFCO staff's review of the document, it includes a reduction in salary for existing staff, leaving 2 officer positions vacant, and reductions in costs related to insurance and legal costs. But it will need to be seen whether those budgeted amounts will then translate to actual expenditures. And with that, the recommendation is to open public hearing, accept public comments, accept the final municipal service review for the Broadmoor Police Protection District, and adopt the municipal service review determinations and recommendations contained in this report. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do any of the commissioners have questions for staff? Harvey?
Rob, when will be appropriate to discuss the governance options? At the end of this discussion or now? Or when?
If I would probably say, if you have a direct question right now about the report, I would say ask that now, and then I would probably defer to the chair about when that conversation would happen, but probably likely after questions from staff and comments from the public. So during commission discussion.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question. How much, so, and it really, it's actually probably for both. How much of the current budget relies on ERAF? Because I was actually, I think it's gonna, I'm about 500,000. And do you realize, and you're projecting to have that next year? Okay. Have you guys looked at what the effect of the state revised budget is on ERAF?
I have not had a chance.
Okay. Well, I think, and has the district looked at that yet? So I'll be candid. I was with the governor's team yesterday and they said they're taking it. Like, so I think, you know, to the extent that's being relied upon to balance a budget for ongoing obligations is going to become really problematic next year.
That the ERAF budgeted amount has actually decreased from since fiscal year 2022. I mean, it stayed the same in fiscal year 23, and you've had it budgeted for at 500,000, but in fiscal year 2022, you had it at 566,781. So that's actually decreasing. So I agree with Commissioner Mueller that there's got to be another way so you're less reliant on that. And if excess ERAF is taken, then you just can't even rely on it.
Good afternoon, commissioners. As far as ERAF goes, we received documents from the county that said what the projections are. So we factor those numbers that the county provides to us, via the state, to the county, to us, for our budget projections. Now, if there's going to be a change from the governor's office, obviously we'll have to adjust to that. But as of yet, we have not received that one, even though I understand that there is a significant state budget on the horizon.
Yeah, I think the difference, the difference there, and I appreciate the fact you rely on projections from the county with respect to what ERAF might be, but one of the things that one of the budgeting disciplines that a lot of districts do is that they don't use those ERAF funds for ongoing obligations. They use them for one-time capital expenses or things of that nature because they realize every year it's unguaranteed. So to the extent it's being relied upon for ongoing service delivery, that becomes problematic. And that's what I think the board is commenting on.
Understanding that County of San Mateo had hired an expert to work with Broadmoor and to develop budget. It was the expert's professional opinion that ERAF funds have been going towards municipalities for over 20 years. When it initially started, there's a high concern that it's going to be a short-term augmentation to budgets. And here we're at year 20. That's his professional opinion, of which he's given to the county, I think sometime this week, that those ERAF funds will continue. Now, having said that, there's different professional opinions out there. Working with the county professional, a recognized expert, was his official opinion. So therefore, we took his.
I am not privy to that consultant, and that consultant might be, but I think regardless of whether or not you think it's going to continue to be using it for ongoing obligations is problematic. You might, if you want to use them for one-time obligations, or for one-time capital expenses. But every single year, ERAF becomes an issue of whether or not we're going to get it that year. There's only 5 counties in the whole state that do get it. In 2020, there was a push to take it away and there was a last minute deal. But it almost disappeared that year. This year, looking at the budget deficit that we're looking at, there's a strong belief. And even with the revise this year, what the governor's budget did was it opened the door for more obligations that will take from that ERAF money, such as now charter schools also get a piece of that. So they're chipping away with what that can be used for. So to be budgeting that as an ongoing source consistently going forward in the future in these economic times just simply isn't wise nor sustainable.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. My question is small and potentially nitpicky, but it keeps gnawing at me, so I'm gonna ask it. Might sound like it comes out of left field. I'm aware that government fleets are supposed to be updated sooner than later, I think by 2035, where you can correct me if I'm wrong. Has there been any conversation with the district around the upgrade of their fleet to electric? And the reason I ask is this line about the district replacing vehicles as needed through annual budget process, et cetera.
LAFCo staff has not had that specific conversation, but as part of kind of the overall recommendations, that was one of our comments, is looking at what are capital costs in the future of the district and how they're accounting for them. Kind of that be through a strategic plan or through a capital improvement program, whatever that may be. Thank you.
Any further comments from the commissioners?
Any comments or questions?
Questions, I'm sorry.
No questions.
All right, if not, then we will open it up to the public.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have one speaker in chambers wishing to speak.
Okay,
I call Mr. John Bartula. Again.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this thing is on. Good afternoon, John again. District, have the privilege of serving as a director on the Property Owners Association as well. Super excited. There's a lot up on that board. We engaged somewhat last meeting 2 months ago, quite a bit. I see a lot of what we spoke of actually being addressed at that point. I see that as a real positive. About being, we've got that outside somebody helping us look at some numbers. Proposed budget. You know, the budget is out there. And again, keyword there, it's a proposal. Those things can be nuanced. ERAF, I'd love to know who to talk to help us keep it of ERAF. I mean, you know, 5 municipalities, permitted guidance. The other thing I took away from our meeting the last time, it kind of brought me up, we were sort of all over the map. I mean, Brown stuff came up all over the spectrum on what we're looking for to make sure we're on the same page, as I spoke of, working together collaboratively on getting to where we want to be. So I think the key word there is prioritization. If the commission could help us with some prioritization, Rob's been great, but again, I don't want to focus resources where maybe they could be dealt with after the fact, or not after the fact, but maybe not as high as a number one priority. I think that would be super helpful. Can't thank enough Commissioner Bigstick and Madam Chairperson Martin for taking the time to attend our police commission meetings. That observation, the guidance you provided, and that little bit of feedback goes a very long way. Towards that end, I would love to invite the entire commission of the police commission meeting or Broadmoor Property Owners Association. I mean, we're trying real hard. I see cuts coming, some very hard decisions to be made. I applaud the chief for those. But make it work. I mean, if we're working with trying to maintain fiscal health, get initiative on the ballot, maintain the status quo. I believe that Broadmoor should decide what is best for Broadmoor. And with your help, I think we can make that happen. So thank you very much for your time and your attention and the comments, and I look forward to it.
Thank you, sir. A little technical issue here. Do we know what it is?
I apologize for that, Madam Chair. Oh, that should, sound should go in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion. You had some discussion?
Yes, I wanted to talk about that in terms of priorities first, is that Broadmoor by necessity had to look at financial issues because there were huge problems. And so I think that they're working on them. We've heard about ERAF. We don't know if and we've heard about a measure going on the ballot. And so there's still challenges ahead, but you're working on them. To me, the next big issue was in the big bag of transparency, because one of the big issues that we've had is that people just didn't know what was going on and or had a great difficulty of finding out what's going on. And for me, that would be that issue. I had a problem with the second letter that Paul Davis sent in. Two things there is, if you want public participation, you get the good, the bad, and the ugly. You get things that you like to hear and things you don't like to hear. And so I think vilifying somebody telling you something you don't like to hear is not a good idea. It can be irritating, but it's not a good idea. The second thing is, in his letter, he talked about double dipping. And I am aware that there are employees who vest in a system for retirement and then move to a different system for employment and then vest with that system as well. And I don't know if that is double dipping or not, or has a different term, but some people call it double dipping. There was what I called, I don't know if it was, he was trying to make a statement of fact or an implied threat, which was that he knew of people who worked at the county or other agencies in the county where there was double dipping going on. There are legal, we put it all in the bag of double dipping. There are legal ways of double dipping and there are illegal double dipping. And if he knows of illegal double dipping anywhere, this should be brought forward to that jurisdiction and not be part of a letter saying, hey, I know, and I'm going to tell on it. So I would just say that I found that letter not constructive. And so I just want that, those are my comments today. Thanks.
If I may, Chair Martin, there was one raised hand on Zoom. And we had not closed public comment just yet. If you would like to take that one Zoom comment during the public comment.
I apologize. I thought there was just the one.
One Zoom comment. It's all you have to.
Hi. I think you guys, everyone has heard quite enough of me, given my many letters. But I'd like to thank you all for addressing this yet again and spending your time on it. I'm aware you have limited time and budget to deal with all of the special districts in the county. So I really appreciate your continued time and attention. I'd just like to address that these issues with Broadmoor have been ongoing now for a decade, and that rather than addressing them, they have just continued to attack people who raise these issues. And they continue to maintain that illegal double dipping, for which their former chief will go on trial this August, they maintain it's perfectly legal. They don't think that there's a problem with it. They don't, according to the budget they just presented, they don't think they need to pay CalPERS the entire unfunded accrued liabilities that CalPERS public website says they need to pay. They will not reform. They're not going to reform. And I just want everyone to keep that in mind, that whatever happens here today, nothing is going to change. And with that, I would like to cede the remainder of my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And with that, there is no more Zoom participants that would like to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Harvey, you had some comments or some discussion?
Yes, I do. As we just heard, the issues that the Broadmoor Police District has had are not current only. They go back a decade. There's legal issues, there's financial issues, there's lack of respect for when LAFCo asked them for a matrix to elucidate what was necessary to get back in shape. A lot of stuff was just blown off. My point of view is that this district is calling out, screaming out for dissolution. I don't see any other solution that will actually help the public safety issue for Broadmoor residents. So if it's appropriate at this time, I'd like to make a motion, but I'll wait if it's not appropriate. Okay, I move that we direct staff to prepare a protest hearing about this dissolving the Broadmoor Police District for the next meeting.
So in a LAFCO process to dissolve a district, the first step from the LAFCO commission, if the commission so chooses to initiate a dissolution, would actually be at probably a later meeting, would be at an agenda, would be to initiate a resolution of application to dissolve the Broadmoor Police Protection District. And then that would set in motion the creation of a plan for service that would then be brought forward. That could also, we could talk about the timing of that, because it may be that the application and the plan for service have to go together. So it might just be at this point direction for staff to work on that particular item to then bring it to the full commission for a vote on both the resolution and a complete plan for service, what that dissolution would then do. If that was then approved by the commission, there would then be a protest hearing at a later date. So the action would be, and that would be set by the commission if there was a vote in favor of dissolution. So there would need to be, in order to have that action occur, though, like I said, there has to then be an application that's put together, a resolution, and particularly the plan for service, because there would be a need for coordination between LAFCO staff and the county to understand who that provider of service would be, to understand the financial impacts of that. So there would still need to be some work done before we could bring back that application with the commission's review and potential vote.
What he said.
Any discussion about this? How do you feel then?
I have a different, we can come back to that. I had something else I wanted to ask about. And I appreciate that you're trying to get the budget in order, but there's been significant service delivery cuts as a result of doing that. And I'm curious what the service delivery looks like right now in terms of what are the actual policing services that the residents of Broadmoor are getting at the present time. What did it look like before you did the service cuts? What does it look like now? So how many officers are on duty at any one time patrolling?
6 full-time officers, and myself. 6 full-time officers. Current vacancy we're filling, we had to let somebody go, so there's another vacancy there. In the projection from the county expert, they have a full staffing of 9 officers, and we're a little bit leery of that number right now. Given the ERAP, given some of the other concerns that are out there, so we didn't want to go ahead and fill those vacancies, where in fact that may contribute to a problem down the road. So we're hire somebody to go. So right now, our staffing, the cuts, the 2 full-time officer cuts, they were in the works 2, 3, 4 years ago, and back in 2016, 2017. So it's only the last few years that we've actually realized those actual cuts. The secondary cuts were part-time personnel who were dedicated to follow-up investigation, criminal investigation, and follow-up registrations of sexual predators, Mays Law 290. That was a part-time person. So we furloughed those positions to stabilize the budget at the latter part of August. Our full-time officers have absorbed more responsibilities. We're hoping to hire more personnel. We have them budgeted. And we may have more abilities, and we're still building our reserve program, which takes essentially diverse people and plug them in on a 16-hour per month volunteer basis.
So, it sounds like, so you've met with the county consultant.
Yes.
You have these, you've put yourself on a plan that you think that leads you toward fiscal solvency. You reduce staff to 6 and they're saying 9, but you're at 6 right now.
We're at 6 right now, but we have vacancy to fill.
Right. So you're going to have 7.
Yes.
And then can you explain to me, so what happened with the investigative unit? Is that the person who was doing the Megan's Law, or is that just someone investigating crimes, and how is that being addressed?
There were 2.
Mhm.
The follow-up investigation is being addressed by on-duty staff, personnel, full-timers.
Okay.
Officers, they're not dedicated to the investigation. But depending on the severity of the investigation, we will augment that investigator's personnel with additional.
And when you say you met with the county and they said that it would look like 9, who is it that you're meeting with the county to reach that determination?
Not the county consultant. And the
Oh.
consultant's name is,
Oh, okay, I know who Drew is.
and and I just spoke to him the other day, we are not obligated for his projections, right? There's been no guidance, no direction from the county to take his recommendations, but we have. And we've taken his recommendations, working with our CPA, who's well versed in not only San Mateo, Santa Clara budget, and all the associated factors that have been brought up in other correspondence. And we're dealing with that right now. So we are on a glide path that's gonna take us into a much stabler environment. But I understand there's some opinions on the board that keep looking into the rear view.
And is your consultancy with Mr. Corbett continuing? Or how is that relationship?
Yeah, it is my hope to enter into a contract with him to work with our certified public accountant and to ensure that we are on the steady path.
Would you object to having Mr. Corbett come here and talk to us about that?
That would be up to Mr. Corbett. Keep in mind, he is a consultant paid for by the county at this juncture to look at Broadmoor, so he's not our contractor.
Right. So, Mr. Bertoli, I've worked with Mr. Corbett. And I have great respect so I'd love to actually hear from him. And I appreciate the fact that you all are working with him and are following his recommendations. So,
Supervisor, that audit report should be in your hands tomorrow or the next day. Just for information purposes.
Thank you.
Seen that audit report, again, that is a report, work product between Mr. Corbett and the county.
So I look forward to seeing that. And I do respect Mr. Corbett's work. It's very talented.
Is there a way that you can get that to all of us?
That is something that I will speak with the county manager, county CEO office on, because that is who Drew Corbett reports to. And so I don't know the nature about whether that document will become public, but I can investigate that and have an answer for the commission.
If you would, please.
I have a question too. Now, I'll go
Go
after
ahead.
Virginia. Go ahead.
I was just trying to get this to come to a conclusion, Warren. So if you have a question about this.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious, following up on Harvey's comment or motion. And then you responded to some of the requirements. And I think Mr. Tim was gonna, seemed like he wanted to speak. I don't know if that's right or not right. Happy to clarify. I think Rob covered everything pretty intensively. I just wanted to remind the commission that the form that this takes is that somebody makes a proposal for a reorganization and describes how the police services are going to be provided going forward. In addition, as I think the commission is aware from prior presentations, a commission initiated action has a lower protest threshold than other types of actions. So we'd be entering into a process by which a protest threshold of as low as 10% would terminate the proceedings, or I'm sorry, would require that the matter be put to an election of the people of Broadmoor. And I believe that election under the governing law would be paid for by the LAFCo. So we just want to be able to present in a proposal initiated by LAFCO staff a full understanding of what it is that path looks like from beginning to end.
Thank you. What's the cost of that election, Mr. Bartoli?
I would have to check with elections to see a couple things about whether or not that could be timed with another election, or whether that would have to be a standalone special election, and that would all be dependent upon when timing for when the application would be complete and timing when the commission would have taken action to dissolve the district.
Yeah, thank you. Just one last question. You outlined a series of steps. Could you give us a time frame on those steps? Like, I'm really curious of when this matter, I want to say, come to.
Yes, that would certainly take some discussions with the county, because we would, if a plan for service was to be put together for an application, we would need to have cooperation with the county CEO's office, county budget office, and then the sheriff's office to have and we have been involving them in these conversations, so they're certainly aware of the concerns that the commission has and the reports the commission has put together. But it would probably take some time. It wouldn't surprise me that it would be 6 months before we could have a complete application put together for the commission's review. Because again, we would want to make sure that it's a very thorough application, understanding what those public services are, what the options are before the commission and for the public as well. That'd be a rough estimation of when we could have it before the commission.
So 6 months from today, is it just an estimate?
That's a estimate, yes.
Right?
A generous estimate.
Yes, and that would also depend on other work programs and priorities that the commission has that we'll be talking about in our budget in a couple items.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I'm not sure who this is going to be a question to or comment, but knowing that we are looking at the budget and the work program just a little bit, like I'll underscore should the commission take the step to do that. This motion here is just to come back later. And I think that we need to understand what the impact on that work program will be. You know, it might eliminate all those things. I don't know what the cost would be. We've talked about that because we share those costs with other districts and cities. So I don't know if it would eliminate the work program and substitute this or add more money, or so there's timing and consequences. And so I'm sort of interested in knowing should this motion go forward, what the consequences of such a decision might be on everything else that's before the commission.
Go ahead.
So Rob, your recommendations though on page 37 of our packet, you have three. One is to accept this MSR and one is to adopt it. How is that going to affect what the other part of this conversation is happening? Because I think, I mean, if one of the parts of the process is to adopt the MSR, which I'm actually willing to do, what are the expectations for the district to do in response to the MSR? So
as part of our work program and as part of past practices, we're specifically regarding the MSR, what we have then done, especially in the last couple of years, is we have followed up with agencies to see about the status of the recommendations and what those have been implemented. Now, certainly we've done that substantially with the district through the matrix, and we probably will continue to follow up with them about those items. I anticipate still giving updates to the commission at either a monthly basis or on a commission every time the commission meets as needed to update the commission about anything ongoings that are ongoing on with the problem, particularly when they will adopt their budget, because I'm sure the commission will have questions about what that will look like. And so that there still will be items that staff will continue to do and bring information back to the commission. That is separate from the motion / direction that Commissioner Rohrbach has talked about today. And if there is direction from the commission, staff will certainly take that and then work internally, and then also potentially work with the finance committee around the work program issue and potential budget impacts that we can bring back to the full commission to discuss and understand as part of any application for dissolution.
So we wouldn't be at odds if we approved the MSR or to adopt it and give you direction to look into this process. Is that
No,
correct?
you would be not.
Okay, so then I would like to make a motion to adopt the MSR and then give direction to staff to look at what this process would be for your end result of possibly dissolving, but not saying that we are going to dissolve, but just to look at this process. But I do think that if there's a response from the district to the MSR, that we should be able to get some of that information as they, so, and maybe that'll change things, I don't know, but I don't think if they're not at odds, that would be my motion.
Okay.
Commissioner, can you explain what take a look at means?
Well, I think what Harvey wanted was to, and what everyone else was talking about was to understand what this process is for dissolution. I mean, I would, because of the conversation that everyone else has had, I would add that as a direction, but I mean, I would actually be okay if we just adopted the MSR at this time. But I understand that we have this commission with various commissioners on here have been looking at this issue for, at least a decade. So I don't know. I mean, we can give more specific direction to staff unless Harvey, do you have any specific ideas as to what you want staff to look at it as we look at this process going towards dissolving it? The district,
Sure. I think Rob was very clear about the steps that are necessary. And my motion is to really those steps that will result in findings with the county and ultimately protest hearing and necessary election. But what I would direct staff to do is start the process so that we can end up with what I hope is the proper end based on a decade of corporate.
Commission Chair, request permission to make a comment.
Can you hold that comment for just a moment? One thing that we haven't talked about is the proposed election by the citizens of this area, the protection area. Yes, with a kind of convergence with initiating a dissolution in about 6 months. I would like to ask you a question first. Have you done any polling to see, any significant polling to see whether or not an increase in the amount of money that they pay will pass?
That is what our consultant. They are working, but they've given a preliminary report without the polling component of it.
I think that's a very important component of it, because one way or the other, I mean, if they say no, if the citizens say no, you're in deep trouble. And if they say, yeah, we'll give you more money, but we want results, you're still in trouble. You still have to do all these things that we have been recommending that you do up until now. You know, the transparency, the appropriate budgeting, that all of the things that we have suggested that you do.
Basically in the MSR.
Yes,
Basically what's been recommended in the MSR, which is a compilation of everything that we've been talking about for years.
all right. Has your consultant given you an idea when he's going to be able to tell you when this polling is going to be done? You have something to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm confused. So the consultant, it wasn't the entity that would do the polling, obviously.
NBS.
MBS is going to do the
Yes.
polling. And so you're meeting with MBS next week to determine when you run the poll and the questions and whatnot. Okay, and then when they're going to give you and you're trying, your target date for the poll is this, for the measure is this fall?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's kind of close.
Well, to get a poll out actually won't take much time. The question that you guys will have to deal with is whether or not how much you educate the public with respect to that poll. Like, you don't, if you put out a poll that's doesn't show the whole picture, you're not getting a true poll. So the question is, how much do you educate, how, you know, you can take the time to educate the poll on the liabilities that you know, the real liabilities you face, because you don't want to end up with an opposition group telling the public something you didn't, and then all of a sudden your polling's not worth anything. And so.
That's why we get 4 or 5 bids.
Mhm.
For position, NBS was selected. Mr. Corbett, the consultant, has also worked with the NBS, so it's a hand in glove fit moving forward as they build out the strategy. We do have preliminary information that at this point I'm not comfortable discussing, but in terms of polling, that is part of the plan.
So I actually, before I'd want to move, I do want to see what that audit looks like from Mr. Corbett. And if we can't, if it's something that information that can be shared with this body, that we would, or we'd bring Mr. Corbett. I mean, certainly, even if we don't share that audit, we can certainly have Mr. Corbett come and testify before this body and ask him questions. Secondarily, would you agree to make that? I don't actually know if you would want to make that public available to this body or not. You probably want to keep it internal. Yeah, that's work product. So, because honestly, the results of that poll might be something that would also probably, I don't want to, so my concern to my colleagues is I don't want to influence the results of that poll.
I agree. I mean, because
Yeah.
you're hiring a consultant that's supposed to be working for you. So that in and of itself could influence the results and come out with what you want versus what would be, you know, less partial.
Supervisor Slocum, you look like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I don't understand why we're talking about polls and giving him direction. You know, it seems ridiculous to me, all due respects, right? But there's 2 motions on the floor. Harvey's and Virginia's. And I don't know, Harvey, if you amended your motion to include the MSR approval, if that's okay, I don't know how that works, but anyway,
Well,
go ahead and respond to.
Well, yeah, I don't. So the reason why I didn't put the line, if it wasn't ridiculous to me, is because if the polling came back and it was above a certain threshold, I would have confidence that you'd actually have the money. And if you actually had the money and the audit came back and the audit came back good, those are 2 positive signs that you have the ability to survive. If the polling comes back and the polling is terrible and the audit is terrible, then I would probably agree with Harvey and say it's time to close up shop. You're not going to be able to deliver services. So those are 2 indicating factors that actually, if you have them, kind of gives you this body an idea of whether or not we should be telling the public, sorry, this waste of taxpayer dollars to keep this on life support any further. I understand that you're not going to be able to give us the polling. I want to see the audit. If the polling's favorable and it's something that somehow can be given to us, I'm not sure I'm ready to go with Harvey just yet, because if you have a chance to get there and the public is willing to support it, I'm not going to tell them otherwise. But I would be willing to support Virginia's.
I'm trying to find a happy medium to get it right. But I do think that it's worth it to get the MSR out there and to adopt that so that we can move forward with responses. Well,
Yeah.
we can, I mean, I made a motion for both and I think Harvey's in agreement.
Why don't we do 2 motions?
Okay.
approve or disapprove the MSR.
Well, my
And-
motion is to combine. To give direction to staff to look at what this process, the dissolution process might look like. And that's not to say that we're going to dissolve. And to just, my main one is to approve and adopt the MSR and the recommendations in the MSR.
Mr. Conley, do you have comment?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Commissioner Martin. It's a year and a half almost that I've come back to Broadmoor. And working with Director Bartoli for correcting the special study and working with Director Bartoli on the MSR. We are solid with the findings in the MSR, but we've also continued to move forward and take the guidance of this commission and move forward with positive steps. So I think it's highly presumptive to move forward with any talk of dissolution when we're doing exactly what you guys are suggesting for us to do. How could you tell us to do something and then turn around and say, yeah, you've done that, but you know, we're gonna move in this direction too? It seems as though you're almost talking out of both sides of your mouth. And I'm a little confused about this. Because if I'm gonna do everything I can to protect the district and do what this commission said, and work with the director to make everything as transparent as possible. And I bring that before you, they say, yeah, well, good job, and we're gonna still move in that direction. Then I think it's disingenuous.
So
Go
I'll
ahead.
respond. So at least with Virginia's motion, sir, the way I understand it is we're not doing that. So we're not moving forward with the solution at this time, but and I appreciate, and I do give you credit that you guys have tried to work with the county, you're working with LAFCo, you're trying to make everything as transparent as possible. You're working with the auditor, you're doing all those things you should do. At the end of the day, the penultimate question that everyone's going to have to decide is even after doing all of those things, is Broadmoor going to be able to exist as the outlier agency that some like that special district police agency that is the only one that exists in the state that somehow has figured out a pathway where their taxpayers are willing to make that work. And that is a steep hill to climb. And that's why we are here now. If that's the case, that the taxpayers in Broadmoor think they can get there, that's something that they are willing to support, great. And so, and that's why we're giving you as much chance to get there as you can. But if at the end of doing all of those things, it's still not there and the taxpayers aren't going to support it, this body has to be ready to shut it down.
Absolutely concur with that assessment, but give us the time. Didn't get here overnight.
I'll second Virginia's motion.
Thank you, Tiger.
Let's listen to the gentleman behind you.
First time I've ever attended.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. It's important enough that we want everybody to speak.
Thank you for taking the time. I didn't plan on speaking. It's my first time speaking in front of this body. I recognize a few members that have attended our commission meeting. I joined the body in roughly 19 or 20.
Sorry, I don't know who you are. Could you introduce yourself?
Yes, please.
My name is James Kucharski.
Okay.
I work in public safety for the past 33 years, currently working in the fire department and stand on the board. I and the families of me live in Broadmoor. Approximately about 100 of us are third generation Broadmoor people that are very passionate about how we live. My parents, grandparents, children, we all live there, happen to join this commission. Since I've joined this commission, things are going in the right direction. That's what I see. And I am confident in that, or I wouldn't be here today, because I take a lot of heat for what I do. And if you have ever Googled me, I spent 30 years keeping my reputation clean. So I stand before you for one thing, that I know we're moving in the right direction. And I do recognize that we could be shut down. But I know for a fact that I literally walked from my home 5 miles to the fire station and walked back with my dog and saw 2 Broadmoor police cars each time. And I routinely see that. And that's what the residents that are not here. And that's all that is important to us, is having that police officer when we call and show up for whatever reason. And they do that all the time. And that's what, if this ever comes to a vote, you're gonna have massive amounts of people that are gonna tell you that and vote to keep it. That being said and recognized, I understand that we still may be in a deficit. But all the problems and the money that I've seen and I've searched and had very good attorneys, Andrew Ramos, one of them. What I found is what happened in 2012 with the former chief that was never prosecuted, and we were owed about $1.5 million back into our budget. Never happened, not sure what happened, and I'm not here to speak to that, but it was never prosecuted. We are playing catch up from that, and those are the facts. But thus moving forward, yes, it takes about $5 in the bank account as teach my children, but eventually we will save up. So that's all I have to say. I'm sorry. Thank you for taking the time, but it is true.
Thank you. I think it's time to call the vote. Would you call the roll, please?
Thank you. Commissioner Slocum,
Yes.
Commissioner Bixley,
Yes.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Mueller,
Yes.
Commissioner Rohrbach, Commissioner Chang Karali.
Aye.
Chair Martin.
Aye.
Thank you, Chairman. Motion carries.
Okay, the second part of this actually is, do we want to give any direction at this time at all to staff? Well, it wasn't restated, so I know it was unclear.
Could
To
we
that.
restate what we just
Yeah.
approved?
You made the motion.
For, through the chair, if I may, for staff's understanding, this is staff's takeaway. There is the adoption of the municipal service review and the adoption of the determinations of that are part of the MSR. And then there was also direction to staff to basically provide an how I will take this is provide an outline of the next steps at the July meeting of what dissolution would look like and what that process could be. And talk about the.
That's exactly right.
And talk about the possible consequences if, and not saying one way or the other, because I have no idea.
We'll have a thorough examination of impacts to both LAFCo, to the districts, and through what the solution would look like if there was an election. And we probably will schedule a budget meeting in between as well.
Because I'm interested in information, but I too don't want to influence one way or the other this polling. You know, I don't.
Information about SB 938 will be a part of that report, correct?
Yes, it will be.
Thank you.
SB 938 for the commissioners who are not as adept with repeating Senate bills is related to the special provisions that regarding LAFCo initiated dissolutions under certain circumstances, and there's certain findings that have to be made in conjunction with an MSR adoption, but that we can discuss that at our July meeting as part of the LAFCo report.
Thanks, Rob. You did restate it correctly. That's why they're not at odds.
Okay. Moving on. Item 5, consideration of the final MSR for the city of San Bruno.
Thank you, Chair. We'll wait for the PowerPoint to come back up. There we go. So again, item 5, this is essentially the second review of the municipal service review for the city of San Bruno that the commission saw at the March meeting. Again, this is a map showing the existing boundaries of the city of San Bruno and the unincorporated areas that include airport lands, which are undeveloped in and around the San Francisco Airport and Highway 101 and the San Francisco Jail. Some key issues that we touched on, that the city has not adopted a balanced budget in its last 5 fiscal years, but has been able to reduce some general fund expenditures by drawing from its reserves. CityNet, which is the city's cable and internet service, and the stormwater enterprise funds are both operating at deficits. The city has had an impact to TOT, the transit occupancy tax, with a reduction of about 75%. And the city is engaged in ongoing litigation with the state regarding the allocation of sales tax to the city. And if the city was to lose that litigation, the city would owe up to approximately $15.3 million, which would certainly impact the city's general fund. Updates, and this is probably the key slide from this presentation today, is that LAFCo received one comment during the comment period to the draft MSR, and that was related to the water and sewer services to Cappuccino High School. The draft MSR misstated that the city of San Bruno provides these services. It's actually the city of Millbrae that currently provides these services, which then aligns also with LAFCO's kind of ongoing recommendation to detach the high school from San Bruno, given its odd geographical boundaries, and also with the services that are provided currently from the city of Millbrae to that city. Other edits included clarification that while the city's budget process in and of itself is transparent and highlights many of the fiscal issues, the city is still facing a structural deficit. The addition of a recommendation that the city prepare contingency plans should the city lose litigation regarding the allocation of that sales tax, and there were minor typographical corrections as well. As like I said, I won't spend too much time on these particular slides, but the city has been looking at general planning in conjunction with a number of other development plans to evaluate future impacts of growth within the city. And the city's sphere of influence and municipal service boundaries are nearly contiguous, with the exception of the jail and this airport lands area. But neither of those areas meet disadvantaged unincorporated communities. For capacity and adequacy of public facilities, again, LAFCO staff is unaware of any deficiencies regarding agency capacity to meet its services. The city is aware that both CityNet and their stormwater enterprise funds, though, are operating at deficits and are exploring new ways to create revenue so that both services can be stabilized. And we have several recommendations regarding those particular issues. LAFCO staff, again, has not identified any issues with the budget practices regarding process of the city's budget, again, highlighting kind of the process issue, but that there is a structural budget deficit that the city is facing. And again, over the last 5 years, and while it's been able to reduce some general fund expenditures and draw on reserves, they still do face that structural budget deficit. And again, they face issues with shortfalls in revenues in several of their enterprise funds, wastewater, stormwater, and then the CityNet fund. And both of those CityNet fund, the CityNet fund and the stormwater fund had been funded in the past out of the city's general fund. And so again, we have several recommendations that are unchanged from the draft MSR that are for financial ability and recommendations. We have one recommendation regarding accountability, and that's regarding the publishing and posting of city council meeting minutes on the website more frequently or in a more consistent manner. It was challenging to find meeting minutes from the last couple of years on the city's website. And then we have several recommendations, one or two recommendations regarding continuing to work with partners regarding natural hazard mitigation and sea level rise, and regarding a jurisdictional boundary issue with the Monte Verde Elementary School that's split by the city of San Bruno and city of South San Francisco boundary line. And there's a map showing those boundaries. So with that, the recommendation is to open the public hearing, accept public comment, accept the final municipal service review, and then adopt the municipal service review determinations and recommendations contained in the report. And again, happy to answer any questions.
Any of the commissioners have any questions for staff on the MSR for San Bruno? Hearing none, I'll open the public comment period. Do you have anybody waiting to talk to us?
There are no speakers on Zoom currently.
Okay, yes, I will close the comment period. Any discussion?
I'll make a comment.
Okay.
I just want to thank staff for this really great report. Not just this one, but even the last one. So I forgot to thank y'all before, but I have enjoyed reading these. Thank you.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
I'll move to accept and adopt the MSR for San Bruno.
Second.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Chincarelli and seconded by Commissioner Draper. I will now call.
Thank you.
Commissioner Slocum,
Yes.
Commissioner Bigstick,
Aye.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Mueller,
Yes.
Commissioner Rohrbach, Commissioner Chang Kurali. Aye. Chair Martin.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Motion carries.
Okay, item 6, consideration of adoption of the final work program.
Thank
And
you,
final
Chair.
LAFCO budget for fiscal year 24-25.
Thank you, Chair Martin. So
Or
yes.
is it 25?
24,
20
25, fiscal year,
24,
fiscal year 24, 25. I'll have a brief presentation on the item. So as mentioned in CKH, Government Code 5, Section 381, the commission shall adopt proposed draft budget by May 1, which we did at our March meeting, and a final net operating budget by June 15th, which will be reviewed today by the commission. The proposed 24-25 budget, the total amount for the proposed budget is $891,018, which is a total increase of about $39,000 since the draft budget. Key items include a decrease of $25,000 in estimated fund balance for this existing fiscal year for due to county attorney expenses and legal notice costs. A program increase for salary and benefits for the executive officer that's now been in the revised budget has been adopted or has been put in. $80,000 anticipated cost for legal services due to anticipated and ongoing litigation. That's a $20,000 increase from the draft budget. There's also some increases related to IT charges, $3,000 increase regarding replacement laptops for LAFCo, and $50 for fingerprinting of the new management analyst position, which we anticipate we will have filled either at the end of this fiscal year or at the beginning of next. The net appropriations budget has been also then increased. That also the net appropriations increase also includes the reserve amount and the 1/3 apportionment of $33,000 to the one agencies. The fund balance that we have is $134,000 approximately. $40,000 of that will be offset to county attorney costs, and the rest, $94,924, will be allocated to LAFCo reserves. Regarding our adopted fiscal budget for 23-24, we're conservatively estimating and looking at our year-end actuals for that year. We're accounting for the management analysts and vacancy. We're estimating expenditures of again $80,000 for county attorney's office, and that estimated fund balance of $134,000 will be carried over to 24-25. We anticipate, and again allocated to reduce costs down to member agencies, $40,000 to county attorney, and then the balance to our reserves. As part of the proposed work program, we anticipate applications for boundary changes. We may anticipate other ones, including two discussions that were brought up here at public comment today. That includes the CSA 11 annexation, the ongoing City of East Palo Alto proposal to establish East Palo Alto Sanitary District as a subsidiary district of the city, and Belmont annexations within the Harper Industrial Area. We'll continue with our annual audits and looking on digital archiving our LAFCo records. As shown as an attachment and discussed at the Budget and Finance Committee and our last commission meeting, we prepared a draft 5-year MSR work plan. And this work plan prioritizes the agencies upon the last date of their MSR. And so we have cities that will be completed this year that we either have just adopted today or have adopted in the past, along with 3 other MSRs that we're currently working on now. And those include Foster City, Millbrae, and San Mateo County Harbor District. And so that work program, like a slide, that work program is shown as an attachment to the staff report, again, prioritizing agencies that have gone the longest without an MSR, and then kind of looking at it from a geographical perspective. And based on feedback that we had last time, the commission seems supportive of that approach. The budget committee also did meet earlier this month and recommended that the budget be adopted with the one alteration of the $50 for fingerprinting. So we have made that change in our budget as well. So with that, The recommendation is to open the public hearing and accept public comment, and then consider approval and resolution, the attached final work program and budget for LAFCo for fiscal year 24-25.
Any questions from the commissioners?
One small question. Thank you for changing that in the spreadsheet. Does it matter that it wasn't changed in the narrative? Attachment A. It doesn't look like it
I will double check.
unless I have a
Okay.
version that's.
It should, it reflects in the total final number for the appropriations budget. If I missed it in the narrative, I apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you, though.
There are no other questions. I'll open this for public comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are currently no speakers on Zoom lines.
As such, I will close the public comment period. Any further discussion? Can I get a motion?
Just for the record, you did say that you're going to be spending staff resources researching the issue of the dissolution of, well, and that's not listed on the work plan, but
It is not part of the work plan, but it is direction from the commission. And so we will continue, we will take that and incorporate that into the work plan for staff purposes as needed. So
Great.
yes,
Thank
it is
you.
direction from the commission, though, yes.
Thank you for remembering that.
We're also technically still in this fiscal year. I guess that we might carry over.
Where are we in this process? Can I get a motion to
I'll
approve
move-
this?
I'll move to approve the final proposed budget for fiscal year 24-25 of $891,018 in the LAFCO work plan.
Thank you.
second,
Thank
Any
you,
further
Madam-
discussion? Go ahead.
That was a motion by Commissioner Chin Crowley and seconded by Commissioner Robert. And now I'll take both. Commissioner Sokol?
Yep.
Commissioner Bixby?
Yes.
Commissioner Draper?
Yes.
Commissioner Mueller?
Yes.
Commissioner Robert?
yes.
Commissioner Chin Crowley?
Aye.
Chair Martin?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is consideration of the resolution authorizing the agreement with the County of San Mateo for staffing, legal counsel, office space, and supplies for fiscal year 2024-25.
Thank you, Chair. The LAFCO annually adopts a contract with the County of San Mateo for staffing and supportive services such as legal counsel, office space, and supplies. That also then includes coordination between LAFCO and the county regarding budget documents, billing for services for the LAFCO's 1/3 apportionment to the county, cities, and special districts, along with HR support. That the number that you see on the contract and in the staff report is slightly different than the budget number that you just adopted. Because the contracted amount does not include reserves, nor does it include the audit amounts. So with that, again, open the public hearing and accept public comment as the recommendation. And then consider and authorize by resolution the chair of LAFCO to execute an agreement with the county of San Mateo for staffing and supportive services and LAFCO. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, I will open the public comment period.
But for the record, I just want to see the time for when Commissioner Mueller stepped up, and that is at 4 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody wanting to talk to us about this
There's
agenda
no
item?
further speakers, Zoom or in chambers. Thank you.
Thank you. As such, I will close the public comment period. That moves us on to number 8, which is the Legislative and Policy Committee, and this is a report only.
For item 7, the direction.
I'll
is
make a
vote.
motion. I'll
Sorry.
make a motion.
Sorry.
That's okay. To authorize Mr. Bartoli to execute the agreement, isn't it?
It's
Or the chair.
it's
Sorry, Chair Martin, to execute the agreement with the San Mateo County for staffing and support services.
Thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Chin Crowley, seconded by Commissioner Roderick. Now conduct roll. Commissioner Slocum,
Yes.
Commissioner Bigstick,
Aye.
Commissioner Draper,
Yes.
Commissioner Rohrbach, Commissioner Chin Crowley,
Aye.
Chair Martin.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Motion carries.
Thank you. Now we'll go to the Legislative and Policy Committee.
Thank you, Chair. For the legislative report, Cal LAFCO is tracking 13 bills. Again, still tracking the annual omnibus bill that LAFCo submitted a letter of support along with a bill regarding indemnification for LAFCO and applications. Again, which LAFCO also presented a letter of support and submitted to the state. Otherwise, the other legislation items are just for information only. Those are the only two I'd like to highlight now.
Thank you. Number 10 is Commissioner Staff Reports. This is also for information only. I have a question. Number 9, yes, number 9, sorry. Could we have staff and council bring us up to date either now or at the next meeting in closed session regarding the litigation with the East Palo Alto Sanitary District?
Thank you. I have a brief report and then we can discuss whether or not the commission would like there to be a closed session scheduled for the next regular meeting. Okay. 2 weeks ago, the commission filed a motion for a preliminary injunction that would have the effect of preventing staff from filing a certificate of completion until after the conclusion of the litigation. That motion was opposed by both the city of East Palo Alto and the commission. I filed an opposition on the commission's behalf in order to prevent there from being any judicial injunction against the performance of the functions laid out in the resolution you adopted. That motion is under submittal, and tomorrow morning we have a case management conference where the judge may entertain oral argument on the motion and may rule. In any event, I'd be happy to report further about the outcome of those proceedings. And then if there are members of the commission that feel it necessary to move in closed session at the next meeting, we can arrange that as well. We don't frequently have litigation that involves the commission, so need to kind of get an understanding about what you would like in terms of the frequency and the format of the reports about the progress.
So I've received from members of the public, especially in East Palo Alto, about whether or not the fire district, Menlo Park Fire Protection District, is supporting one side or another. And I just want to make sure that everyone on this commission and the public knows that the fire district has not weighed in and will not weigh in on that issue. So we have some members of the fire board who are weighing in and taking a personal perspective, but some members of the public have emailed us about, we didn't know it was the fire board was supporting East Palo Alto Sanitary District, but the fire board has no view at all. So I want to make that very, very clear. We haven't even discussed it. And we're not going to be taking any position.
Thank you.
In either separate memo or something, could you let us know when we're moving to the new facilities? And
Oh, we are. I didn't know that.
we are, and I just don't know when that's going to, well, I mean, today, all the fencing was down. It was the first time I'd seen the fencing down, and so I went, aha, it's getting closer. And don't need to know now, but just let us know where to go next time.
I'm having that conversation currently now with CEO staff from the county. So when I know, I will let you know. And I just have a brief comment as well, is just for the commission's information, that next Wednesday, May 22nd at 2:30 p.m. That will be when LAFCo staff conducts the protest hearing on LAFCO file 22-09. That's East Palo Alto Sanitary District proposal for the city subsidiary district. So that's, the commission does not need to be there. You've delegated that authority to me, because we'll be reviewing what the action the commission took and then be receiving protest notices at that time. You'll not be counting them then. We'll be having a special meeting probably either in June or July for the commission to verify the outcome of that protest hearing. But that is when the protest hearing would close. So the protest period has been open since February. It will close on May 22nd, and that hearing is again at 2:30 p.m. at the East Palo Alto Council Chambers. And again, that is staff that will only be there. The commission does not need to be there for that action.
Can we go?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
You said it was 2:30, what day?
2:30 p.m. next Wednesday, May 22nd. And again, at the East Palo Alto Council Chambers at 2415 University Avenue in East Palo Alto. And if you have any questions about that protest hearing, you can feel free to contact me. That's only my.
I'm sorry, what time did you say?
2:30 p.m.
2:30? Okay. Any other business before us? Okay, thank you for wading through. We are adjourned. I want to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
For what, Warren?